While PTSD often gets linked with big events, think of natural disasters, car crashes, combat. Complex PTSD or C-PTSD can come from something entirely different. Instead of a single event, it develops from long-term or repeated trauma. Imagine it as emotional wear and tear. C-PTSD happens when someone experiences ongoing trauma over months, even years. This could be due to situations like childhood neglect, abuse, long-term intimate partner violence, or even being in an environment where escape feels impossible, like living with unstable housing, for example. The symptoms of C-PTSD aren't just about living or reliving trauma. They're about living with chronic challenges in areas like relationships, emotional regulation, and self-worth. Unlike regular PTSD, which often develops from short-term trauma, C-PTSD involves symptoms that go beyond flashbacks or hypervigilance. Symptoms of C-PTSD include finding it difficult to regulate intense emotions, anything from sudden rage to feeling numb or disconnected. It's like your emotions have no middle ground. Think of it a little bit like instead of having a thermostat in you, which you control how you manage your emotions, you have a thermometer. So anything that's happening around you, you're absorbing and taking in and regulating that way. But C-PTSD also leads to like a lack of self-worth, right? People who have this often struggle with feelings of shame and guilt and even worthlessness. It's like having this harsh inner critic that just never shuts up. And it can make it really difficult to build relationships. If you don't feel like you're worthy of a relationship, if you don't feel like you're lovable, that you deserve to be loved, it's hard to connect with people. It feels like a very big risk to connect with other humans, something I'm working on. Here's the reality. Trauma is personal. Just because C-PTSD isn't caused by one big event, it doesn't mean that it's any less real. C-PTSD and PTSD may look different, but both are valid and deserve support and understanding. So what are some things you can do to manage C-PTSD? One is really working on your self-compassion. Now, I'm terrible at self-compassion, so I probably shouldn't even be telling you about this, but I'm working on it because it's part of trauma recovery. And sometimes the hardest things to do is to do. So, for example, being vulnerable, right? Like when we've been hurt, the first thing we learn is like, I can't be vulnerable. I can't expose myself. But if you're not vulnerable, you don't grow, you don't connect, right? We don't grow like when we're hardened. We grow when there is space to grow, when there is openness to grow. So it's important to allow yourself that self-compassion, that self-love, that vulnerability, so that you can remind yourself of these patterns and thoughts, that you aren't at fault, and that healing takes time and is possible, and that in order to do that, connection with yourself and others is important. Also consider like therapy, trauma-focused therapy like EMDR or cognitive processing therapy. You know, they're designed to gently address trauma slowly at your own pace so that you can improve your well-being. And there's also some grounding techniques you can do for emotional balance, right? Grounding exercises like, you know, really looking at your senses and how your nervous system is taking on that sensory experience, or doing breath work can help you stay present when emotions run high. The good news is we live in a world where all of these things are like accessible online, probably the video below me. So remember, C-PTSD is real and healing is absolutely possible. I know it because I'm doing it, and I'm not special. I'm not some unicorn. I'm just a human like you. So small steps every day, just small steps. Sometimes we'll take a step back and we'll have to get back up and take another step forward. But just small steps every day can help you reconnect with yourself and start to trust the world and the people around you again.